part two of Dr. Carlay and Dr. Michael Householder and their relationship and history and
missionary
journeys and so forth.
Sagas, if you will. So we look forward to hearing more and launching into that. So we'll hand it off to you now.
So to recap, Michael Householder, now Dr. Householder, was my intern in my last year with TCM, known as Toronto Christian Mission at the time, based out of the Vienna Woods near Vienna in Austria, but working behind the Iron Curtain in all of the Iron Curtain countries. And he's told some of his story. Michael, even though I've told the story elsewhere, how about telling again the story about, I think it was Romania, and the border guard says, or asks, do you have any Bibles?
Oh, yeah. I remember that very distinctly. The guard comes up, and first thing out of his mouth was, we had been to 2 or 3 other countries at that point, I think. Anyway, he said, do y'all have any Bibles? And George says, I have mine. And he asks the second question. He says, do you have any more Bibles? And George turns around to all of us, says, each one of them has a Bible. And I blurted out, oh, I forgot mine. And everybody started laughing. And the guy says, go ahead. And so I said, George, what if he would have asked a third time? And George said to me, I would have told him we had Bibles in these suitcases here. He said, I'm not going to lie. And wow, I mean, you talk about hitting me like that's cool. I mean, that could have went another way. Like, well, I could have lied, or I could have done this, or I could have said that. But he said, no, I would have been honest and said, we've got these Bibles here. And I think that's why TCM was successful in what in the mission, because it was open and honest. And it really taught me a lot of lessons there, that you be honest and you let God take care of the rest. It's when you try to take it on your own that you get yourself into trouble and put things into jeopardy. So that was a great lesson. Another lesson, we had I don't know what country it was in. Maybe it was Hungary, but I'm not sure what country it was in. We had an East German translator. She was from East Germany. Do you remember that lady that she came down and met us? This was not in East Germany. This was in another country. And you had hired her to come down and be a translator for some reason. I don't know what country it was. But anyway, so we all started talking. And at that point, I come from East Tennessee, and people in East Tennessee, they have kind of an accent here in East Tennessee, a Southern accent. I kind of lost most of that because I haven't lived here all my life. But anyway, she turns to the other 3 and she says, can you translate his English so that I can understand it? I said, what? I speak good English. And I was kind of hurt, And so when I got back home, my brother said, you're talking weird. And I said, what do you mean? Said, you're talking like this. Every word you say, you're talking like this. So I was overcompensating so that she could understand me when I talked English. But I remembered that. But we went on and talked, and this is what was sad. And we talked to her, and she says, have you followed Jesus? Have you accepted Jesus? And I use the word follow. I never use accept or receive. I believe we need to follow Jesus. We can accept something, but never follow. So I ask people to follow Jesus as their Lord and Savior, never accept or receive him. Anyway, that's part of my teachings that I train around the world in. But anyway, so we asked her that question, and she says, I want to get baptized. Oh, I said, well, what's keeping you from getting baptized? And she says, I am by practice an MD, a medical doctor back in East Berlin. And if I decide to get baptized and the authorities get wind of it, I will lose my job and I will only be able to become a street cleaner. So I don't know what to do, because I'll lose everything, and my children won't be able to go past the 8th grade. And so I don't know what to do. And so I thought later, after it's all over with, should have said to her, well, we can baptize you now. No one has to know but God and us. And I wished I would have thought of that at the time. And you wouldn't, I don't think you were with us, George. It was just her and us four that were talking. I don't remember if you were standing there with us and this was in between. You was out trying to get things arranged.
I don't remember that conversation. I remember her, because her and a friend of hers, I took bananas and oranges and things and medical books to her in East Berlin once upon a time. And it was my guess that we were someplace else, maybe even called Marxstadt, where she was translating for us.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember us four just we're just talking to her, and you were getting something arranged. I don't know, but you weren't with us. I do remember that. But you speak of East Germany. I remember this is like burned in my brain. All right, I want you to picture. George, you can picture this. You both of you never saw East and West divided. And okay, picture yourself. We're in West Berlin, which is controlled by the Americans, the French, and the British. All those sectors were there. And then you got the wall, the famous wall. You've heard of the wall, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the wall was there, and this was 1975. And so I look around, and I just want you to visualize looking around. And I want you to see people walking around with smiles on their face. I want you to see people with red and green and blue and all kinds of different color clothes. I want you to look into the sky, and I want you to see a blue sky with white little puffy clouds. I want you to see people just going and doing whatever they want to do. And that's what it was like in West Berlin on this day. Well, George helped us. We went through Checkpoint Charlie. I don't know if you've ever heard of Checkpoint Charlie.
Yep. And George shared a story about it.
Okay, right. So here you have the wall, and you've got machine gunners, on the wall. East Berlin machine gunners who don't want East Berliners coming over to the West Berlin at the point. But right before we go in, we're on this one street, and you got the wall, and right at the wall is a street sign, and you can see where the wall dissects that street. And there's that street sign right there. And you think about yourself, say, wow, at one point, this street continued. But we went in, it took probably 45 minutes, at least 45 minutes, maybe an hour for all of us to get checked through or something like that. It seemed like that. Maybe you can tell me different, George, but
it took a while. That's probably true.
So it was about 45 minutes, whatever. And so here we come out from the other side, and all of a sudden there was not a cloud. There was not a cloud. Everything was gray. It was a misty rain coming down. There was no smiles on anybody's face. There was nothing but brown and black and gray clothes. There was no colored buildings. Everything was gray and brown, and it was like doing a reverse Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
It was like going from color into a black and white.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that just epitomized the whole trip, the whole experience between socialism and controlism and the freedom, the joy without control and all that. So it was just the epitome of what happened, because under socialism and communism, you want everything to be the same. You don't want anybody to stand out. You don't want anybody to have more than anybody else, unless you're in the control, unless you're in the people that control things, then that's a different thing. But everybody else, you want them to have the same thing, look the same way, act the same way, think the same way, dress the same way. And, you know, practically, George, that's exactly what happened. I mean, I did not see color clothes. Was I wrong?
No, I think you were right for that time. Do you happen to remember the streets?
I remember the gate. What's the name of that gate?
Brandenburg.
Yeah, so I remember that street because we stood in front of that.
When you drive in, so you have bustling West Germany, and after you get into East Germany, huge wide boulevards and almost no cars.
Right. Yeah, it was bustling, buses, people going everywhere in the West, and it was just like it was a ghost town. You know.
Makes me think of Narnia. It was always winter there.
Yeah.
You know, let me take that to, let me continue that. When we were 20, I was 20 years old at the time. And so we worked with, met with the kids and the teenagers and young adults like us. And we were able to go in and out of the stores with them as we met them, and there's another thing, the lines. I mean, you stood in line for every single thing, and there'd be a line there. And I remember one time I said, "What's in the line?" He says, "I don't know. Let's get in the line and see what it is. It's got to be something that's good." So we got in the line, and we found out that it was Lodi. You like Lodi? You remember Lodi there? You like that? I love Lodi. Lodi is really good. Have y'all ever had Lodi?
I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about when you say.
Well, you have had it. Yes, you have. It's ice cream.
What is it though?
What is it?
It's ice cream.
Oh yeah, I love a lot of Lodi.
Loaded up on Lodi.
Loaded up and
I
loaded.
load up on Lodi.
He has it
Yeah.
nightly.
And so we got in line, and the Polish. There was about three of us, a girl and another guy or two. I don't know, but the girl took me by the hand and she said, "Let's go to the front." I said, "What do you mean, let's go to the front?" And she dragged me. She said, "Come on." I said, "What are we doing?" She said, "Well, you're an American, and you're special. You can get in front." And as we was walking up, people were booing us and everything. And I said, no. I said, "No, I'm not any special. We're going to go back to the back, And but she thought, well, he's an American. We can get him in front. And they started booing. But I convinced her. I says, "We got to go back." But there was one town we were in, and they said people get in line at 3:00 in the morning on Thursdays. And I said, "Why do people get in line on Thursdays at 3:00 in the morning?" That's the only day they have meat during the week. It comes in that one day a week.
Wow.
And so they get there at 3:00 in the morning so that, they have a chance to do it. But you go inside, here's a shoe store. All right. No half sizes. So if you had 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, there were no half sizes. And I had to buy a pair of shoes at one point in one of the countries, or needed to buy a pair. I don't know why, but whatever. And so we walk in, and there was a gray pair, a brown pair, a gray color, a brown color, and a green color. And they all were the same style.
So boring.
Yeah. So I think I got the light green one. It wasn't light green. It was kind of, anyway, I don't remember which one I got, but that's kind of what you saw. So it is true that they wanted to keep everybody the same, that no one would be better than another. And so they forced that in the products that they allowed to be made and distributed.
If you had more jeans or hose with you, then
let me tell you
that probably that was contraband.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we were told, and I don't know, I don't think you told us, but going into Romania, I don't know if it was you.
Romania especially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You said for us to bring pantyhose or extra jeans. And I thought, well, extra jeans is a lot of weight, so I guess I can get some pantyhose. So I really didn't want to carry around a bunch of pantyhose, but anyway. Today I guess it'd be all right, you know, for me to carry around. But anyway, no. Anyway, this was Romania. And what we did was we used the pantyhose to trade for other stuff. And what it was, they couldn't get pantyhose, and the women couldn't get pantyhose, and good jeans. You couldn't get, you know, Levi jeans went for $100.
Wow.
Minimum.
That was then.
Yeah.
$100.
Those days. So who knows in today's dollars?
Right.
what it would be.
Probably 1,000. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, no, that was $75. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, you know, it had to be Levi's, or had to be Levi's. Wranglers maybe 75, 50, but Levi's 100 plus.
Wow.
But anyway, so I had my pantyhose, and we were driving along, and here's these gypsies, and they had beautiful tapestries, beautiful little things that were sewed, you know, and stuff like that. And I had bought some earlier. And so we drove on, and I had one pair left. And all the rest, nobody wanted that pair. I think it was a different color. Because one lady says she didn't want that because it wasn't the right color. I wanted to say, well, hey, at least you got something, you know, but
Yeah.
and so I had this lady had these two tapestries that was just gorgeous, just flowers that was sewn together, you know, it was beautiful. And I think I still got them. And so, you know, I bargained with her. I only had one pair of pantyhose, or I think I had a couple of pairs, and she took the two pairs for that. And I saw that it was torn, you know, and I said, I don't want this one. I want something that's in good shape. And here it was, she couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Romanian. And here I was pointing to her, says, you know, no good, no good. I want my pantyhose back, or I want a new one. She says, no, you don't get a new one. And this was all, you know, pointing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know how it is when you can't communicate with a word, you do all this crazy stuff. And so, you know, she had her pantyhose there, and I grabbed the pantyhose because she wouldn't give me a new one. And I said, you give me the pantyhose. You know, here we were. I don't know if you saw us, but we were tugging back and forth.
That would be a sight.
So I always talk about my tug of war with a Romanian gypsy.
Over
Yeah.
pantyhose.
And then George had an earlier story
Yeah.
where he stole
Stole
his
his
pants.
pants,
So, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad I didn't have a pair of Levi's on. I might have lost those.
Yeah.
Yeah, we often took some Levi's to some of the people we worked with, especially the younger people,
Yeah.
and it was highly treasured. One of the things about Berlin we might mention just came to my mind is that when you are in West Berlin, looking toward East Berlin, you will see a large water tower.
Mm-hmm.
When the sun is shining, there's a cross on that on that tower. So how the light is refracted or whatever, it makes the shape of a cross. And I was told that they tried painting it this color and that color and so
Wow.
forth to
Yeah.
try to get rid of the cross. They never could.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that. I don't think we saw it that day that we were there shining or anything, but yeah.
Probably sun has to be at a certain angle to hit it right, but
Right. I remember Mark Judy was the other guy. There was two females and two guys. Mark Judy was with me.
I could not remember. Mark Judy, yes.
Yes. We went into one of the stores to buy some authentic East Berlin. No, some authentic, was it East Berlin or something from Germany? So he comes out and he shows me this. Oh, look what I got, this authentic thing. And I take, oh, let me look at it. Turn it over. Made in Japan. And he went, oh, no. So, even back then.
Do you remember visiting Venice?
Yeah, I love Venice. Yeah, I remember we camped outside because you can't camp on Venice, So anyway, there was the Adriatic Sea. And I went down. I think you all was setting up camp. I think you kind of got mad at me because I didn't help set up camp that night. I don't know. But anyway, so I saw some fishermen and they had their nets and I was really curious. And so here was these bunch of men with their nets, just like it would have been in biblical times. And they brought the nets over to the shore and dumped them. And they started picking out the fish on the shore. And when they got done, I found a couple of little cups. And I went over and picked up the little fishies, put them in the cups. And I brought them back and I cooked them for everybody. I don't know if you remember that. But that was really, really neat. And one of the stories that you have to think about is going to the bathroom. Okay. And I remember a number of stories. There was one time that I was in the bathroom and doing what I needed to do, and all of a sudden I felt this thing hitting my feet. And I looked down and there was a mop at my feet. And I looked over there and there was this lady mopping around my feet while I was there doing what I needed to do.
Oh, uncomfortable.
Yeah, so I said, okay, no problem. And there in Venice, there was, it's called the Turkish toilet. And George, you've used these many times, just a hole in the ground. All right. And there's no support, nothing to hold on to. You just have to squat or just, balance yourself or whatever.
Or you don't fall in.
Oh, God.
You don't fall on. Yeah, right. Well, this one in Venice, there's two things that happened to it though. It had a rope on the door, and you just held on to the rope, and you could balance yourself. It was just, it was the best one of them all, right there.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. But the bad thing about it is, when you flushed it, you had to pull another rope. You had to pull the rope down to flush the floor, and the whole floor flushed.
The
Wow.
whole floor. Oh my goodness.
Whoever created, whoever created this one put the rope back a little bit. So what you had to do was pull the rope and jump out at the same time, or your feet would get washed.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So if you have to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m., it would prove
What
to
did
be
it
very
mention?
challenging.
What did it be? Go to
Because
the
it
bathroom.
seems like you really have to think through the bathroom situation.
Is it worth it?
Yeah.
I mean,
So that was, things were different. You'd be driving down the road and you'll see a babushka or a lady on the side of the road, hunched down. You're right there in the middle of daylight, using the bathroom, restroom, stuff like that. So it was an interesting experience. Things are different.
John Huck was partnered with Gene Dulin with Toronto Christian Mission in those days. He was from Belarusia.
Yep.
And Gene would describe that when they were on a bus tour, like in Poland, then he would have the bus stop and he would say, girl rabbits to the left and boy rabbits to the right.
Yep.
One of the problems, Laverne would tell you some stories if she were here. One of the problems was in Poland was you could be in an area where there are a lot of trees, but you can be in a lot of areas where there were no trees.
Right.
And so you just had to go native in that case and swallow your modesty.
That's why the ladies wore those long skirts. They were, able to hide everything.
Interesting. So there's a reason
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah,
Now,
a lot
going
of
back
that.
to the East and West Berlin, I was wondering, you were describing the differences with color, but I was wondering about the differences with attitude.
Oh yeah. Well, like
What
I
that
said,
was like there, because I know you don't know their native language, but just
Observation.
their countenance and everything. I was just curious, and how they socialized, how that was different too.
Oh, it was a I mean, you saw people engaging, you saw people smiling, you saw people looking at each other in the eyes in the West. In the East, you saw nobody engage with the eyes. You saw no smiles, you saw no joking, you saw no interaction. The idea in the East was, if I say the wrong thing to the wrong person, I'm in trouble.
Mm.
If I joke about this or joke about that, I could be in trouble. The less I say, the less I'm in trouble. And so that was the attitude of anybody in the East. And if you don't know them, you don't share. You don't.
In
You don't
most of the
know.
countries in those days, in the 70s, if you talk to a foreigner, you're obligated to report it to the local bureau.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
And if you saw somebody talking to a foreigner, then you should report it.
Right.
And if you report it, but the other guy didn't report it, he's in trouble.
Mm.
But if the other guy also knows that you saw him talking and you didn't report it, then you could be in trouble.
Mm.
So people would keep their distance unless they really knew each other and trusted each other.
Mm.
When I did the missionary course in Odessa, there was a lady that said that she led 3 lives. And I think there used to be a TV program by that name, I Led 3 Lives. But there was her life as a wife and mother, her life as a public school teacher, and her life as a person that shared her innermost thoughts with only one, possibly 2 other people.
Mm.
You couldn't tell your husband everything because he might then have knowledge he'd be responsible for, and it'd be a problem
Wow.
one way or the other. When you were in school teaching, you had to teach the party line about everything. And so the only relief was to have somebody that you fully trusted and hope that you could always fully trust them to tell about how you really felt, how you really thought, rather than have to keep it bottled in all the time.
Yeah.
So
Well, it
I
was-
don't guess that her experience was unusual.
No, it
She
wasn't.
was,
Cancel culture, basically. It was
Ukrainian.
Yeah.
the
I was
cancel
gonna
culture.
say, yeah, that's a good
I
segue.
remember. Go ahead. What?
I was just gonna say, if you wanted to say what you remember, I was just gonna say this is a good segue because we asked George something similar, like if you were to live, younger today and what's going on here in the West, and from a modern missionary perspective, in light of what you've seen, that hindsight, that was the experience gained and all, what can you see now, and what do you think would be good wisdom to impart on the younger generation?
Mainly concerns you may see in our
Yeah,
own nation.
Like if there's
with-
parallels or
yeah.
writing on the wall or warnings or whatever.
and what we can.
Yeah, I did my master's thesis on the critique and analysis of the Marxian view of alienation compared with the biblical view of alienation.
Wow.
Mhm.
And so I went ahead and did studies on that, did a master's thesis after. This is another impact that this trip made on me. Studied Marxism. I've counted up all the time that I've spent, and I've spent 3 years living behind communist countries, not counting the Russia and Poland. That was post-country. But the time that I've spent in Cuba, the time I've spent smuggling, doing the Bibles, in 75. So it's been close to 3 years under communism and 8 years post-communism, right after it fell. And so I've seen it during and post, and everything that I've studied, everything that I've seen is basically taking place now in America.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
Every strategy, the college control from kindergarten all the way up. If you train them when they're young in the communist way or the biblical way, they will not depart from it when they grow older. And so that's the philosophy that they're using. And the sad thing is you have all these people your age and a little bit younger that are getting brainwashed in the universities by these professors. And you've got these if I was speaking to one of them face to face, I'd say, I've been there. You haven't. I've lived it. You haven't. I've seen the end of what it takes place.
Right.
You're not at the
idea of
end.
romanticizing it or calling it something else, calling it democratic socialism. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you had to say about that too.
All right.
The guise of democratic socialism and how people try to romanticize that and say it's different than the socialism that you're talking about.
Well, the difference is very slight. What is happening is, in the American way, you have the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, and the bourgeoisie, which is the corporations and the federal government, wants to be what's in control, and the rest of us becomes the proletariat. And Kamala Harris was very succinct when she said in an interview, I want to take those who are at the up here and those that are down here, and I want to bring them together. In other words, those who have anything,
Equity.
it's, and here's the key is you got to destroy the middle class.
Right. Yeah.
There was no middle class in Eastern Europe, correct, George?
Oh, yeah,
Right. You either had those that were in control, the party members that were in control and was in good with the party, or you had everybody else. There was no middle class. There was no entrepreneurship. And so, and that's exactly what is happening right now is let's destroy the middle class.
Right.
If you've got property, which we do, extra property, then someone else needs to get your property. We need to get some of these refugees to have your property. That's being proposed. Make everybody equal. Well, it's never been in the history of the world that it ever gets equal.
No.
It becomes, we have control over those majority of you. And so it is a delusion to think that everything is free. It's a delusion to think all will be equal because they're not going to give up themselves. You've got politicians that says, hey, give up your one car that smokes while I've got 20 cars.
Right. And that's my thought too. It's like, okay, why don't you do that first?
Never happens.
Yeah.
It never happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I want to say that there was a lady that I met, and I want to say it's Romania. I believe it was Romania. And I remember this to this day. She said, America is our hope. Go back and be sure that America never falls. She says, we need the strength of American Christians. We need your prayers, but we need America itself to stay strong, or we will never have any hope.
Wow.
And I never thought in my lifetime that we would be where we're at right now, that we may need to go to Romania and says, hey, keep strong, Romania.
Yeah.
Because
I heard the similar thing from Jan Tolwinski in Poland, that he said the people of East Europe are looking to America, and you need to be strong for us that we can become like you.
Yeah.
He was talking about the freedom that Christians had.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thought to leave on.
Yeah.
With us. So,
Yes. We need to have you back on, by the way.
Yeah. Very great